They told me that when you gaze into the abyss gazes back. They were wrong. When I looked into the dark, I didn't see an abyss, I saw her face. My daughter was in there, lost in a world where light goes to die. And for her, I would not just look at the darkness, I would become it. The war for the city was over, but the war for my soul had just begun. I stood at the jagged border of the Forbidden Lands. The sand here didn't move, the wind didn't blow. It was a graveyard of silence. My stone army halted behind me. They were creatures of the earth, and the earth ended here. My general, a granite titan who had crushed skulls for me an hour ago, knelt. He could feel the vibration in the ground. He warned me that if we crossed this line, we would crumble. He said the magic here eats stone. I placed a heavy hand on his shoulder and told him to stay, to guard the light while I went into the dark alone. He told me I would die alone. I looked at the lamia coiled around my arm and told him the truth. I won't die, I'm already dead. I'm just too angry to lie down. We crossed the threshold and the cold hit me instantly. It wasn't winter cold, it was the chill of the void. My granite skin, hard enough to shatter steel, began to hiss. Spiderweb cracks appeared on my chest. I wasn't just walking, I was disintegrating. The lamia hissed, tightening her grip around my neck to share her warmth. She told me I was breaking, that this realm rejected me because I was too solid. I ignored the pieces of my own shoulder falling off and asked where they were. She pointed a claw ahead toward the Void Citadel. She warned me that my brother didn't just walk there, he was summoned. Miles ahead, climbing the spine of the world, my brother was terrified. He wasn't a warrior, he was a rat who had stolen a lion's cub. He dragged Sahara up a spiral staircase made of floating bones under a sky that swirled with purple lightning. Sahara was stumbling, bleeding from her knees. Every drop of her blood that hit the black rock echoed in my mind like a thunderclap. The pact bound us. I could feel her terror. It tasted like ash in my mouth. He pulled her chain and screamed at her to move.
Do this! I can't breathe!
Terrified that if they didn't reach the altar before the moon rose, the Nameless One would eat them both. Sahara wept, begging him to let her go, telling him that I was coming. My brother stopped and looked back at the darkness where I was marching. He smiled a twisted, broken smile and told her that her father was nothing but a pile of rocks, and rocks don't climb to heaven. I reached the bottom of the spine, only to find the bridge gone, shattered into dust. There was no way up. The lamia told me I couldn't climb, that I was too heavy and gravity here was a weapon. I looked at the sheer obsidian cliff towering above me and decided that if gravity was against me, I would break it. I didn't climb, I punched the mountain. I drove my fist into the sheer obsidian wall with the force of a meteor. The rock exploded. I created a handhold, then another. I began to scale the vertical wall, destroying it as I rose. Every impact sent shockwaves through the valley. I wasn't climbing with skill, I was climbing with pure hate. Above, my brother felt the tremors. He looked down and saw a cloud of dust rising fast, and within it, two glowing yellow eyes. Fear, pure and primal, washed over him. He grabbed Sahara and started running up the final steps, screaming that I wasn't a man anymore. I was a monster. I vaulted over the ledge, landing heavily on the platform of the Citadel. My armor was shattered, my left arm hanging by a thread of magic, but I was there. In front of me stood the massive gates of silence. And standing guard wasn't an army, it was the environment itself. The shadows peeled off the walls, forming the shapes of faceless wolves made of smoke and hunger. Void hounds. Creatures that don't bite flesh, but eat magic. The lamia warned me they would drain me dry before I took one step. I looked at the gates. I could hear Ciara screaming inside. I didn't slow down. I didn't defend. I charged. Let them eat. I had plenty of pain to share. The hounds hit me like a wave of cold smoke. They didn't bite with teeth, they bit with silence, phasing through my granite armor and sinking their jaws directly into the magic that held my body together. I felt my strength draining away, sucked out like marrow from a bone. My knees buckled under the weight of a dozen shadows, each one tearing at my essence. The Lamia hissed and struck, her fangs tearing through the smoke, but for every hound she dispersed, 2 more materialized from the floor. They were endless. They were designed to exhaust a titan, but they didn't understand who they were fighting. I didn't fight them with magic. I fought them with mass. I stopped trying to crush them and simply let myself fall forward, driving my shoulder into the great obsidian doors of the citadel. The impact shook the mountain. The hinges screamed, metal twisting like wet clay. I roared, pouring every ounce of my fading strength into one final push. The doors exploded inward. I stumbled into the great hall, trailing dust and dying shadows. The noise of the battle vanished instantly. The room was vast, breathless, and silent. In the center sat the Nameless One, a colossal silhouette of negative space that seemed to absorb the light around it. And at its feet, standing on a raised platform of bone, was my brother. He held Ciara by the neck with one hand and a jagged crystal dagger in the other. He looked small, pathetic, yet terrified. When he saw me, a crumbling giant of gray stone standing in his sanctuary, his eyes went wide. He pressed the dagger into Ciara's arm. A thin line of red blood appeared on her skin. Instantly, a deep fissure cracked across my stone chest. I fell to one knee, gasping for air I didn't need. The pain wasn't physical. It was a soul-deep severance. My brother laughed, the sound echoing nervously off the black walls. He shouted that I was a fool to come, that I was powerless here. He reminded me of the pact, the blood magic that tied his life to hers. He taunted me, saying that even as a monster, I was still his slave because I still had a father's heart. The Nameless One shifted on its throne, leaning forward to inspect the intruder. Its presence pressed down on me like the crushing depth of the ocean. It was waiting for the sacrifice. My brother raised the dagger higher, preparing to cut Sahara deep, to force me to surrender or watch her die. The Lamia whispered in my ear, her voice trembling for the first time. She told me there was only one way to break a bond forged in blood. You cannot untie the knot, you have to burn the rope. The bond connected a living human to a living human. I was stone on the outside, but inside my core was still beating with the warm blood of a man. That was my weakness. That was the tether. To save her, the man had to die so the god could rise. I looked at Sahara one last time. She was weeping, shaking her head, begging me to run. I didn't run. I looked at the Lamia and gave the order. She didn't hesitate. She uncoiled from my neck and struck, driving her fangs deep into the cracks of my armor, seeking the pulsing core of my being. She didn't inject venom. She began to drain me. She drank the last remnants of my humanity, pulling the warm red blood from my stone veins. The pain was absolute. It felt like my insides were turning to ice. My vision went gray, then black. My brother watched in confusion, shouting at us to stop, unsure of what madness he was witnessing. He didn't understand. He thought I was dying. I wasn't dying. I was emptying the vessel. As the last drop of human blood left my body, the vacuum it left behind screamed for power. The void energy of the citadel, the very air of this cursed realm, rushed in to fill the empty space. My gray, crumbling granite skin turned pitch black. It hardened, crystallizing into lustrous, indestructible obsidian. Veins of glowing purple magma ignited beneath the surface of my armor. I stood up, and the sound was not grinding stone, but the ringing of dark crystal. I was no longer the Stone King. I was the Obsidian Lord. My brother panicked. He slashed his palm with the dagger, screaming for the bond to work. Blood poured from his hand. He looked at Sahara, expecting to see her bleed, expecting to see her fall. Sahara stood trembling,
but her skin remained flawless. The cut did not appear. The bond had snapped because there was no human on the other end to hold it. My brother stared at his bleeding hand, then at me, horror dawning on his face. He realized too late that he was bleeding alone. I took a step forward, and the floor beneath me turned to glass from the heat of my new form. I pointed a finger of black crystal at him. The game was over. "Help me!" my brother screamed, scrambling backward across the obsidian floor, clutching his bleeding hand. He looked up at the colossal shadow on the throne, begging for salvation. "I brought him to you. I gave you the king. Give me the power you promised." The Nameless One did not rise. It leaned forward, its eyes burning like dying stars. Its voice vibrated through the floor, cracking the glass beneath my feet. "You promised me a soul," the entity rumbled, "but you brought me a rock, and you wasted my time." The shadows around the throne surged forward, not to help him, but to consume him. My brother shrieked as the darkness wrapped around his legs, dragging him toward the pit. But in his final moment of desperation, his madness overtook his fear. He didn't fight the shadow, he opened his mouth and swallowed it. He clawed at the black mist, forcing it into his own chest, screaming that he was the rightful king. The Nameless One paused, amused by the audacity of a dying rat. "Very well," the god whispered. "If you want the void, take it all." The Nameless One poured its essence into him. My brother's body arched and snapped. His skin tore open, revealing not muscle, but swirling black smoke. His size doubled, then tripled. Bones cracked and reshaped into jagged spikes. His face elongated, his jaw unhinging to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. He was no longer a man. He was a shadow golem, a mindless vessel of pure destruction. He roared, a sound that shattered the remaining windows of the citadel, and charged at me.
He hit me with the force of a landslide. His shadow claws raked across my chest, seeking to tear me apart as he had done so many times in our youth. But he was fighting a memory. He was fighting the gray stone that could break. He wasn't ready for the obsidian. His claws didn't cut me, they shattered against my black armor. I didn't budge. I stood like a mounting of dark glass, immovable, anchoring myself with the weight of the earth. I grabbed his wrist. My grip was no longer cold stone, it was searing heat. The purple magma veins beneath my skin flared white hot. "You wanted the crown," I growled, my voice sounding like a volcano erupting. "Then wear the weight." I drove my fist into his chest. The impact released a shockwave of purple energy that blew the dust off the floor. His shadow form flickered, burning away under the intense heat of my core. He struck me again, desperate, wild, but I caught his other hand. I pulled him close until his twisted, faceless visage was inches from mine. I let the heat rise, turning my entire body into a furnace. The shadow inside him screamed as it burned. I didn't stop until the smoke cleared, until the monster dissolved, leaving nothing but a pile of ash and a twisted gold crown on the floor. The Nameless One watched from its throne, indifferent to the death of its pawn. It waved a hand, dismissing us. We were no longer entertaining. I turned away from the abyss. I walked over to Sahara. She was curled in a ball, terrified. To her, I must have looked like a nightmare, a demon of black crystal and fire. I knelt down, the floor hissing where my knee touched it. I reached out a hand, but stopped. I was too hot. I would burn her. "Sahara," I rumbled. She looked up. She saw the purple fire in my eyes, but she didn't run. She stood up, tears streaming down her dusty face, and stepped closer. She hovered her hand over my arm, feeling the heat radiating from me. "You're burning, Father," she whispered. "I burned the world to save you," I replied, "and I will keep burning so the dark never touches you again." We walked out of the citadel, leaving the silence behind.
I carried her to the edge of the desert where the sun was just beginning to rise. The golden light hit the sand, but I stopped in the shadow of the gate. I couldn't cross. My place was no longer in the sun. If I stepped into the light now, my new form would terrify the very people I saved. Sihara understood. She didn't beg me to come. She hugged the air in front of me, sobbing one last goodbye. "Go," I told her. "Rule in the light. I will hold the dark." She walked away toward the city, where my stone general was waiting to serve her. I watched her until she disappeared over the dunes. The Lamia slithered up my leg, resting her head on my burning shoulder. "The brother is dead," she hissed. "The pact is finished. What will you do now, Obsidian Lord?" I looked at the vast, empty desert, then turned my gaze to the west, where the dark ocean raged against the cliffs. The Lamia had told me the blood had woken something up in the water. The Kraken Lords were rising. My war wasn't over. The battlefield had just changed. I clenched my fist, the black crystal singing with power. "We wait," I said. "Let them come. The mountain doesn't move for the tide."